Where am I going? What is my next step on the path for spiritual growth and happiness? Hungry for the answers, I studied all the spiritual warriors. I was fascinated with the concepts of quantum physics, the power of the mind, the beauty of nature, and the miracles that take place in the now. I understood their teachings, but was searching for a map and practical tools that would guide me further along my journey. Most importantly, what is my contribution that will ultimately produce positive changes for myself and the world around me? I am sure you, like me, have had these questions. How will I get there? How can we all get there? And then I met Joy.
Many people want to live from the joy space. We talk about it all the time. Let's live from your joy energy. But how do we do it? When we get beyond the chaos and the busyness of life, joy energy is that power that helps us to achieve our dreams very fast. So how do we get there first thing? How do we get there? How do we flip that switch so we live from joy before we set our goals, before we empower them and visualize them and do all the things that we talk about? I've been teaching this for a long time, and what I thought was correct was to teach you to create your goal first, then to visualize, then to empower it with emotion. That's backwards. It's much better if you can live into your joy energy first, then set your goal, then set your vision, then empower it. When you do that, you're aligned from your core energy, and it goes all the way out to the universe and back, and you can deliver fast the goods to yourself and to the family around you. What we're going to be talking about today is how to flip that switch so that you're in that position of power. We're going to talk about how to feel it, how you think it when things get tough, how to do it, how other people have do it. They're going to share their stories, and how to live into that vision that you have for yourself. Let's get started. Imagine that you have a life force generator. It's a power plant, your own personal power plant of energy, stored energy, that's deep in the heart of you. You have the ability to turn it on. You have the ability to turn it off. You have the ability to amp it up and to taper it down. It is the place where you control fear. Because when you turn on your joy power, it is passionate, it's strong, it's capable, and there is no fear. Because you don't even see it. You don't sense it, you don't smell it. It's like flipping on a light switch. When you flip the switch on your joy power, the darkness just goes away. Let's do an experiment. If you could close your eyes for a moment and go back to a time when you felt powerful, passionate, capable, where the world was your oyster and nothing was going to get in your way. Remember that feeling and anchor it in your mind. That's what you do when you flip the joy switch. Let's take a minute and listen to a few people share some stories about how they flipped their joy switch. The first person is Doug Banner. He's a 25-year educator and a storyteller.
About 15 years ago, I had an organic farm. I was raising mules, and I did everything. I was raised on a farm in Tennessee for a while, and then I grew up in a fishing community. So I've always been that way. Always been connected to nature and deeply connected to nature. So I did everything. I raised the animals, I shoed the animals. I was putting shoes on one of the mules, and it freaked and it fell over me, and I fractured my spine. And what the doctor said is a 1/4 inch more and you would be a full quadriplegic. And I spent a year in therapy coming back. I fractured my spine, I fractured ribs, I was a mess. Suddenly I was this man who had always been physically active, always been very strong, always been deeply connected with nature, who couldn't even pick up a bag of sugar or his babies. So, excuse me, that gave me time to think. And as I started thinking, you know, one of the things, I could stand up and walk, or I could lay flat. because I was wearing this big brace. I have to, it went from my neck to my chest and down here, and it fully wrapped me. And so I could lay down and take this thing off, or I could put it on and then stand up. So that's all I could do. So I started looking inside, here, and realizing that there were a lot of stories that I myself had been wrapped up in. Because when you come to a place in your life where everything you stand for is gone, and your personal identity story is now gone, what do you have to hang your hat on? And I've spent time working in grief work and that with other people, and people have come back from terminal disease and those kinds of things, and we all have this thing. You develop an appreciation for what's in here. And that was the first switch. Is that my personal identity story changed from an external world to an internal world that had an effect on the external world.
I've never thought about things that way, and it changes everything. Can I change?
Years ago, I went through a devastating divorce and got skin cancer almost in the same week, and had some very dear friends who kindly told me I was wallowing in the gutter and needed to get a new direction in my life. I went to a seminar, Man Who Changed My Life, and I think the strongest message I walked away with that day was there's two different ways we can live on this planet. One is in frustration and the other is in fascination. So from that day forward, I chose fascination. I carry clown noses with me on my programs, and I use them a lot because I think that our greatest sense that we carry with us is our seventh sense, which is our sense of humor. So that was how I flipped the joy switch, and I keep those clown noses with me everywhere I go. I've got them in my car, I have them in my office, I keep them in my briefcase. I'm at airports all the time, and I just am constantly handing out clown noses, trying to bring people through to fascination. So that was how I flipped the joy switch.
I think the best way my sensory system has guided me out of problems is putting down the cell phone and forgetting about text messaging. Because I've had heated conversations with individuals over text messaging, but you can't show emotion in that because you're typing to somebody over text and just clicking buttons and hoping that somebody feels emotion from that, but you can't.
The ripple effect was, if humans could make a difference, and each one of us makes a difference individually, we affect each other. When we affect each other, we affect the world around us. When we affect the world around us, it affects the universe. There is a compound and ever-changing ripple effect. It's an ebb and flow. It's like a movement through the universe, through time. And what I realized when I really looked at the world, how does the world work? It works on a composing and decomposing cycle. The energy, the life force. That's when I talk about life force or energy, it's that creative force that is the desire to live. It's like the desire to experience everything. And as you go to sleep at night, that life force ebbs down and it calms down. It builds up, back up again. And as you get up in the morning and you start to make decisions in life, you either build your life force energy up or you drop it out.
I'd went from a negative place, turned it around, made it positive, but I was still looking for more. And after high school, after I graduated with good grades. It wasn't hard for me. I hadn't felt like it really had, it pressured me, but it wasn't something that I couldn't overcome. And I overcame that easy, and I was thinking about where I could go, what I could do, and I knew I wanted to do something physical, so I went to Bellingham Technical College into construction, building construction technology. And through there, I went through the schooling and I did it, but I was still lost. I didn't know what I was going to do after that. People say that you go to a 4-year college and then by the time you're done, the first 2 or 3 years are obsolete. And so I didn't have a lot of faith that it would actually put me somewhere good. and I was hanging out with a rough and tumble crowd. They're still buddies of mine. They're still definitely buddies of mine, but I choose not to hang out with them so much anymore. But it turned into a darker spot of my journey, if you will. And through it, my mom noticed it, my attitude, my general essence of being when I came in, woke up, walked around, went to work or school, and she'd been doing a lot of work on this theory, on flipping the joy switch. And she was talking a lot about it, and I tried to listen, but I couldn't see it. I couldn't visualize it. And so it was a bunch of yammer, and it wouldn't sink in. And so she got fed up one day, and she says, Derek, she said, what's the problem? Well, that's layman's terms, I suppose, but she confronted me, and I was like, Mom, I'm trying to listen to you. I'm trying to hear what you're saying, but there's a lot of big words. There's a lot of ifs and ands. There's just, it's like, and I told her, I was like, Mom, if you're gonna make this work and get people to get the message, they have to see the message. You gotta draw them a picture. I need a picture.
He wanted a picture. How in the world was I going to put a lifetime of learning into one picture with one job description? He wanted absolute clarity. I realized that where he was in life is he was young, he was embarked on a future where he was going to have to become a completely self-determining organism, totally empowered to make his own choices for the rest of his life. So I thought, I'm going to build him a model where he can start from square one. He's at a Y in the road at any point in time. How is he going to navigate? How is he going to be able to make an empowered decision every moment of the rest of his life? So I started with a baseline of body, mind, spirit. So I recognized that Derek was a single person with a composite of his physical body, his mental intelligence, and his creative spiritual potential. He was in one position. This is the one thing that he had absolute control over, and he had a point in every single moment of every day, in every situation, where he chose the path he wanted to take. So when you're approaching a Y in the road, you have to recognize that one path will take you one way, a different path will take you a different way. What I recognized is that as a coach, if you have a student who has a bad habit, what you want is to help them to be able to choose how to replace the negative habit with a productive habit. So I looked around and I looked at what were the common stories that existed in society today. And what we have is a very common mythology or story trap pattern of telling stories in the news media and in our lives, which is all about the good guy, bad guy victim. And what that translates into is the persecutor, victim, rescuer storyline. So these are the common job descriptions, and the end result of that and the motivation for that is fear. This was the pattern that he had gotten himself embroiled in, and this is a habit. So what's the alternative habit? It's to go into a creative pattern, and when you're in a creative pattern, in a creative mode, you build, you lead yourself out of whatever path it is that you're on, and you innovate. And this is the replacement pattern, and this pattern is motivated by joy energy. So in one fell swoop, I did get him a roadmap. I got him a picture where he could say, I'm in possession of myself, I choose this route, or I choose that route. He looked at it, he liked it, he got it. The fear triangle is really a triangle that is all about deconstruction or destructive behaviors. Most of us are very familiar with this triangle, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because this is the typical good guy, bad guy story. And there's always the victim, There's always the good guy or the rescuer. There's always the bad guy or the persecutor. The motivation behind this triangle is fear. It's always about fear of death, fear of loss, or separation. In that case, the fear is to something we don't want, so the don't want becomes the vision. Vision becomes reality. We invariably destroy, kill, or dominate whatever plays inside this triangle. If we want to change our habits, we've got to remove this pattern of thinking from our life and replace it with a completely different pattern. Most of us think that the alternative to the fear-based triangle is the body-mind-spirit triangle, or harmony, where we are aligned in our body, our mind, and the spirit, and we work in harmony. And this triangle is a calming place. This is where we go to be centered. This is where we go when we want to get out of the franticness of fear. We want to get out of anger. We want to get out of control. We go to a place of harmony, and we think that that's going to solve our problem. It is not a replacement habit. This is a place of calmness. It's in a place of alignment. It's a place of connection and flexibility and relaxation, but its energy is not the same intensity as what you find in the fear-based triangle. So trying to use this as your alternative doesn't work. This is the choice point. This is the point from which you get to choose the level of energy you want to exert next. The joy triangle is truly the replacement to fear. And the reason that it is because our natural inclination is to grow, to become more, to live into our potential, to live into our growth, to participate fully with all life. So the motivation of the joy triangle is joy, and it's aliveness. Your sense of activity in here is about being alive and participating with the world around you. Your job descriptions become that of the builder, of the leader, or of the innovator. The entire motivation of this is to become one with all that is and to flow with all that is 100% and to participate fully in life. So this becomes the high frequency energy that can cancel out the fear energy that permeates the fear triangle. So what we're looking at is that Derek then had a clear choice between the fear triangle or the joy triangle from the body, mind, spirit place of centeredness. In summary, we were able to achieve what Derek wanted: a picture and a job description and an action plan all at once. He had a position from choice point where he would be in position of himself. He could flip the switch, live into the fear energy or into the joy energy, along with the decision to live into one or the other. He got the job descriptions and the habit pattern in the way of thinking that came with the fear triangle, which is persecutor, victim, rescuer. Instead, if he chooses to go over here, we gave him new job descriptions as a builder, a leader, and an innovator. And what that means is that that put him into a point of power, a point of passion, and a point of creativity. Because the questions that you live into in the right-hand triangle and the joy triangle, the questions are, how could it be? If it wasn't like that, then how else could it be? How could I make a difference? What could I do? What resources could I bring to the table? Or what could I create that would make the world a better place? The decision-making process was clear, the choices were clear, the pathway was clear, and he made his choices.
It brightened my eyes, it opened it up. I joined the Carpenters Union, and I've been going gung-ho on that since. And it's been really nice. My life's running well now.
If he can do it consciously and on purpose, I can do it. It's just making one choice, then another, and then another. So now, how do I know when I'm on course?
You can feel it. You can feel it. You know exactly whether you're on or off course. And you can change your course settings at any time at choice point, because you're always at the point of decision. You are always in control of your feelings. You are always capable of changing your mind. One of the most powerful people that I learned this message from was a woman by the name of Nola Ayers. She's a gymnastics coach with a 384-1 win-loss record. I mean, is that outstanding or what? If there's somebody who's going to teach me something, I want to learn from a woman like that. So I interviewed her, and I asked her what was her secret. And here's what she said. A mental thought truly has no power until you interpret it and give it credibility and attach emotion to it. Fear is a destabilizing emotion which releases negative hormones like cortisol, which disables an individual from achieving peak performance. Joy is a positive emotion, which in turn releases positive hormones like catecholamines, which empowers peak performance. Therefore, in my work, whether in coaching athletes or individuals, I teach them to be conscious and aware of their thoughts and the emotions they attach to them. Then she said something fascinating. She said that in gymnastics you deal with a lot of fear. And in coaching her kids, she taught them really to pay attention to their thought and to appropriately label their thought with the emotion they wanted. That meant noticing when the thought comes in. If you want to empower it, you empower it with joy energy. It increases performances. It increases results. And I realized that that was the key to success in life as well. So if you can learn to control your thought at choice point, you have a chance in every moment to change your biochemistry and to change your results. It's really important in aligning your energy. It's way beyond the sixth sense. It's way beyond the seventh sense. It's way beyond any sense that I don't even know how to, it's primal sense. It's ancient core root energy. And when you live from that place and you align that energy with your potential to go to the future, now you're in a place of power. And that's where you become resilient, because you move both from the composing and the decomposing energies of the universe, and it's going all kinds of directions around you, and the energy's coming in and out, and it is not what we make it up to be. It's not some linear fixed little thing where you just make a, the joy switch is about being able to flip that thing so that you get to enjoy your life and move on and go places.
One day, I believe it was New Year's Day, my family, myself, my parents, and my older brother were sitting down at the kitchen table having lunch, and for some reason got into this really deep conversation. I believe it started with me thinking about leaving high school my senior year and just dropping out, and whether I could handle that, because I was feeling like people would think I was failing or bailing out or giving up. And my mom and my brother think and feel a lot alike and react to things the same, while my dad and I react and think the same. So they were both giving me different viewpoints of the same situation. So my dad came up with this metaphor of putting our experiences and feelings in boxes to deal with later, and how people like my mom and my brother can innately do that, can just put things in boxes and tape them shut, get rid of them, no problem. But then my dad and I can't do that. We put things in boxes and kind of set them over there, but they're never really out of sight, so we always have to think about them. And then the next experience comes, put it in the box, set it over there. Eventually they all come tumbling down, or something knocks the lid off, and we have to deal with everything again. Nothing's really over. So I completely unconsciously at that point realized I didn't want to continue the path I was on, because if I did, I would end up as unhappy as my dad. And I didn't want that. I saw how unhappy he was when I couldn't see it in myself. I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I couldn't. And I didn't realize that until now, looking back. I would never look in the mirror. And I didn't know why, but I think it was simply because I didn't want to face who I was, and I didn't want to face my problems and my fears. So I put them in a box and set them over there and didn't look at them. But through writing especially, I was able to deal with everything. Writing has always been my outlet, but I finally found a way to truly write, deal with everything on a topic, analyze the experience completely, be done with it, set it aside in its little box, tape it up, glue it shut, and burn it. And it's gone, and I don't have to deal with it anymore. And I don't have to wallow in it and worry about it for the rest of my life. It's over, it's done. And that was the most important thing that I've learned. And I think it was interesting that it was completely unconscious. I never knew I was making that choice, but my inner spirit, inner being, whatever I want to call it, realized I couldn't continue down the path I was on if I ever wanted to be happy, and made me change.
You know what? We say oftentimes humans are bad, humans are good. That's a story. Humans are living beings. And when I got to thinking about that, I was thinking about, you know, how many people do you really know in your life that are bad, truly bad? When I realized it was like 1, 2, maybe 3 at the most, if they were truly bad. And how many people do I know that are really good? I mean, there's like thousands of them that I've met in my life. That's when I got that the story was off. There was something wrong with our story of the human species. There was something wrong with our stories of who we were, and we need to increase, in my opinion, part of the roadmap to conscious social change is changing our belief about who we are as a species, getting our self-worth in alignment with our self-esteem, because they're two different things. Self-esteem is who you are from the outside in. Self-worth is who you are from the inside out. Every single human being on this planet today matters. They matter to each one of us in relationship, and they matter to the world around us. And every decision that we make affects our lives internally, it affects our biophysiology, and it affects this earth. So as we can align that, and we can collaborate together and move it forward, we can create change.
On a personal level, when we look at story traps, when I look at story traps working with people, there are a number of story traps that we get into that are sociocultural. And those are the kinds of stories, for instance, that are, well, think of this one, and we'll probably get some head nodding, you know, on this one. Whatever I am is not enough. That is a very common story trap, and it's embedded in our culture. It doesn't matter what ethnicity we come from in America, whether you're looking at folks raised in the South or the North, East, West, whatever, you find that. I find that in people. Whatever I am is not enough. And that level of self-doubt really affects the way we perform, or overperform, or underperform. And another one that's very big is the rugged individual story. And this one I think is very destructive for our young, because the rugged individual myth, story trap, leads to the desire to have heroes. And the heroes that we have provided for our young people, in my opinion, as an educator of nearly 30 years, have not been healthy heroes. The heroes that you find in video games, the heroes that you find in the movies that are the Rambo types, that rugged individual who, even though they may rescue the people, they allow collateral damage. And so collateral damage is okay. They're the rugged loner. And they create in our kids the sense that you have to be alone, when on a biological level, you know, on that bioenergetic level, we are not loners. We're herd animals. We've been herd animals since the dawn of time. And so we've created a story trap about being individuals, which is completely counter to our biology. It's completely counter to the natural way we want to be. And it creates in us a stress that for most of the kids that I ever worked at, creates a stress that they simply don't understand. I should be this way. I should be more. I should be, and I don't know. Who and what you are now in this moment is what you should be. Now let's think about the future instead of being hampered by the past. So I think the most devastating aspect of story traps is the way that they insidiously grip us and hold us to a past that no longer serves us. And when we work with the story trap and recontextualize our story so that we can tell a story that's a more positive story for the future, it empowers us and allows us then to make choices and decisions based on the strategy of the joy switch. You see, if you have not recontextualized your story, you can flick that switch all you want and you'll have moments of ecstasy, but it doesn't last. If you've recontextualized the story, then what happens is you can say, it's okay to feel this way. And I cannot tell you the number of people go, I felt so happy when such and such happened, but I didn't feel right, so I had to go back to the way I was. And that's the story. That's the story trap. I shouldn't be this happy, you know. I don't have all this stuff, so I shouldn't feel this happy. You know, I've got to have this and that to be happy. And no, that's the story trap. And so that's the important thing I think to understand about the joy switch concept, is that it's not just this thing that you turn on and stays on, but it can go on and off. And if you want to intentionally control that aspect of your life, you have to recontextualize your story to make it work, you know, and that you know that you can't live in that place all the time. I mean, if I were there all the time, I would spontaneously combust. But when you turn off the joy switch to spend some time recontextualizing another story trap that may emerge at a different level, you're doing it with intentionality. And there's the big driver, is you always have the choice.
This is how the highlighter works. You every day when you leave your house, let's just start at home, because I think the skills that Joy teaches and that Doug teaches and that all of us talk about and have in our hearts are skills that the most important place to teach them is at home. Practice them at home on the most important people in your lives, and then we can take them out into the marketplace, in our communities, in our countries, internationally, and practice them on people that maybe we don't even like as much, but this is what it is. You go out on a day-to-day basis, you look for people that you can highlight from your heart. We want to go out and we want to become human highlighters. So every day, whether we're working with young people that maybe are doing things that we don't totally agree with, but how can we learn from them? How can we highlight what they're doing to bring it into our world and understand it better, so that we all make it a better place to live? So this is all about, on a daily basis, going out and instead of highlighting pages, highlight people. Highlight people doing things well, or highlight people doing things that maybe you don't understand, and ask them so they can explain it to you in their terminology, in their language, so that we can start opening channels of communication instead of shutting them down.
Can you truly change your story? Can you really change your future?
Yes, we can change. Every one of us can change individually. We can change as a group. We can change as a collective. We know how. We are ancient organisms with an old primal ability to change. You know why? Because change is our constant. Change is natural. Change has been happening for generations. Now let's hear Doug talk about how he stays grounded when he's in times of change.
A big part of the whole story trapping thing for me has been about staying focused and centered and grounded. And one of the things I do to do that is I play a lot of music, and my primary instrument is the drum, and I play a lot of different drums and that. But there are so many drum stories on the planet, and one of my favorites comes from Indonesia, where you have an interesting combination in some of the islands where you have an island that may be a Muslim-based island, yet for the planting ceremony, the elder of the village, who all other days of the year is the leader, the Muslim leader, does this pagan ritual. And what he does is all the villagers come out, all the women in their dance costumes, and all the men come out, and there are drummers. And there are drums set at the four corners of the fields. And there's a great gong and a big drum, a big bass drum. And the elder goes to the center of the field and stands with his arms outstretched, his head leaning back, focusing completely on centering in the earth and the heavens. And he waits in this absolute silence. Even the babies don't cry. Even the wind doesn't blow. Absolute silence. And he'll stand there for however long it takes. And then suddenly he aligns himself with that pulse that's the heartbeat of the earth that sends out to heaven. And he drops his arms and is and this goes on and on and on for all the time that they're planting the seeds, because every seed is put in the ground in rhythm to the beat of the earth's heart. Beautiful story. And then when the harvest is done, then the drummers go and they do another rhythm. And what we found about this rhythm, it's 120 beats per minute. And it puts everybody in a trance state. And that sounds like this. And this is that rhythm that we connect to when you first meet someone, across a crowded room and you fall in love. This is this one. And if you listen to all the different films that you may see or all the different sacred ceremonies you may go to, you'll hear that. Wherever you are on the planet, you'll hear it. There may be a different instrument, there may be a different tone, but the rhythm is the same. And we're all connected that. All of us are connected that way.
Now let's pull it all together. We each know now that we can individually change our future. Our vision does become our reality. Nola has done it in high school gymnastics. Doug's done it in academics and storytelling. I even did it in a small community in Bellingham, Washington called Fairhaven.
Well, in Fairhaven, things were a little sort of stalled, I guess you'd say, in the early 1980s. It was, the area had deteriorated through the 70s and was kind of at a sort of stagnant sort of point. And so Joy brought a group of us together who wanted to make things better here and who had some ideas about what might make the place better. It was a very collaborative sort of work together, and seeing now what's happened in the neighborhood is just as a result of that kind of vision has been pretty exciting. Well, I think Fairhaven is really, it's a neighborhood more than anything. I mean, it's called, in Bellingham, people refer to it as an urban village, and I think that's, it probably is it epitomizes what an urban village is and should be. It's a place where people live, where they work, where they play, obviously. It's shopping to some extent, but it's those things that serve the needs of the immediate community. It's really bringing the joys and desires of all kinds of people together in one place. I guess its antithesis is the mall, and so it's not really, it's not simply a collection of businesses that were put there to sell things to people. One hopes it's a place that meets the greater needs of the whole community. So the interesting thing is that a collaboration of the group and the way that happened, it was voluntary collaboration. It was not, it was not something legislated or put together, and it really was. It was the notion of people coming together and bringing their ideas together that really was the important thing about this task force.
What's exciting to me is that collaboration works internally and it works externally. It works individually and it works in community. Leaders all over the world are stepping up to the plate to change our future. Let's take a step back into your own reality and let's design your future from the inside out. So let's have you go to your joy place for a second. Remember the visualization at the very beginning when I wanted you to feel your power of joy inside of you? Now close your eyes for just a second and imagine something that you want from that place of joy. What is it that you want? Turn on your switch, open your valve, and go get it. Flipping the joy switch is fun. It's a metaphor for change. You have learned a method to feel it. You've got a model to think it. You've got a story to do it. And you have a new perspective to be it. You are a precious being. You matter. Your decisions matter. You know how to change, and you have the tools to do it. You have the power inside of you. Use it.
By our very nature, each one of us knows we can change the world. We can change the world around us every day, every minute.
Don't just wish for love. Be love. Don't just wish for joy. Be joy. Where you've been estranged, unite in peace. Be the change you want to see. Be the change. 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 When you hear a lie, be truth. Where cruelty resides, be kind. Rearrange, take the lead. Be the change you want to see. Be the change. 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 I won't just wish for love. I'll be love. I won't just wish for joy. I'll be joy. Where I've been estranged, I'll unite in peace. Gonna be the change